Here we are in Chicago at the Worldcon 70, also known as ChiCon 7, and I have Todd Gallowglas and Brian Buhl, both authors and really neat folks. Todd, why don't you start off and tell me a little bit about your background?
Well, I've been a professional storyteller at various Renaissance fairs since I was 17 years old. That's not as cool as it sounds because sometimes it rains. I used my storytelling show to launch my indie book career last year, and now I have currently 5 titles on Amazon bestseller lists at various ranks. Right now my best-selling series, Tears of Rage, I call George R.R. Martin Game of Thrones meets Three Musketeers, because I like the dark and grim, gritty stuff that George R.R. Martin does, but swashbuckling and guns are also really cool.
Very.
So I'm Brian Buhl. I've been friends with Todd for about 20 years or so.
Almost.
Yeah.
No, 20 years. We met when I was 20.
Right.
Now everybody knows how old I am.
No, do I need to edit that out?
No, you keep that. No, keep that. That's fine. I don't care.
I've been enthusiastic about writing since much longer than I've known Todd. With ebbs and tides in my certainly my enthusiasm or my productivity, but you need to write 1 million words, and I'd say between '96 and 2002, where I was writing 2 to 6 hours every night, I think I might have achieved my 1 million words. But unlike Todd, I am not published yet. I haven't actually produced anything that I am willing to share yet, but this year I think that's going to change. That's the goal, and I'm sticking to it.
Very cool. You mentioned earlier how last year was your first Worldcon. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I by accident, through Todd's friend Penny, I was able to go to Worldcon. I didn't really know much about it. I knew about the Hugos since I look at all Heinlein's books, Hugo Award to nominees and whatnot. But the opportunity to go to Reno was there. I went, and it reinvigorated and reawakened my thirst and my desire, my dream, really, to pursue the writing career. So since then, in the year after, I have been shifting my life around. I quit the job that I had that I was fairly miserable with, moved to a job that I was going to be happier with, where I could have a little bit more time to write. I'm basically just moving my life to that place where I can start really pursuing and producing the way Todd is.
Excellent, excellent. So, Todd, do you have anything you'd like to talk about, current and future project aspirations?
Currently, I'm working on an urban fantasy, and I'm doing a really big experiment with it. It's called Spellpunk. Right now, people can get the first 9 chapters on my blog, mgallowglas.blogspot.com. I'm working with an artist. We'll be producing out the webcomic, and once the webcomic, the first couple episodes of the webcomic are done, we'll be launching spellpunknovel.com. I will be doing a podcast reading of it, and eventually the whole thing is going to be free online. But we're looking at a late September, early October launch for the novel on Amazon Kindle and the print run for that. And so if people are not patient and they want to figure out what happens next without having to wait for me to publish the 150 or so chapters weekly on my blog, then they can go just get the book. But if you're patient, you'll be able to get the whole thing of Spellpunk, and that's kind of what I'm working on now. I've got a couple of novels in the works. The next Tears of Rage book should be out by Christmas. And also, my pet project is called Genre Underground, and it's a group of independent, self-published, and small press science fiction, fantasy, and horror writers who are just banding together to get the word out. GenreUnderground.com. Our mission statement is finding the right book for the right reader, discovering the most innovative science fiction, fantasy, and horror small press and indie that you want to read.
And just to touch on that, it's not just about the authors coming to push their books. It's actually providing a better networking to the readers, so that, you know, if somebody comes to Todd and says, I want high fantasy sword and sorcery stuff, that might not be his work, but he, you know, there's authors
Right.
that are doing that, and he can direct them to it. So it's actually a really good for the readers as well.
Right. It's not sort of the used car salesman that you get a lot with some people that are just like, buy my book, because not every book is for every reader, and that's really what the genre underground is about. Thank you very much for touching on that.
Very cool. Well, guys, I know I know Brian's got to get to the airport soon. So let me just wrap it up with what I like to call my weird question. I'd like for each of you to tell your fans something weird and wonderful that maybe they might not know about you or your projects, or basically whatever strikes your fancy.
I think Todd should start this so I don't put my foot down.
All right, that's fine. Something kind of weird and off the wall about both Brian and myself. We are both avid airsofters. We belong to a group, an airsoft team that we kind of founded together called Team Red Hand. And we go out every weekend. We're in town in Northern California. We go to our favorite field and we shoot BBs at each other. And it's really actually kind of really cool because whereas, you know, we're not in fear for our lives, doing that and running around the hills and crawling through the brush and having BBs being fired at us and everything, it's really kind of enhanced the way I write my combat scenes from my character's point of view, with the adrenaline rush and the physical experience, and that you don't think a lot about the details while you're fighting. It's after you fight and you sit there and go, oh wow, what just happened? The details come back, and in the moment it's just like act, move, don't think, because if you think, you're going to get riddled up with little pellets, and that sucks.
Well, I mean, it comes down to training, really. I mean, that's what you do is when you want to do something under pressure, is you train so that when the pressure's there, you're not thinking, you're just doing what you're supposed to do.
Right.
I don't know that I have anything to really, you know, particularly interesting that wouldn't sound horrible.
Horrible is not bad. Oh, wait.
I know what that is.
I have, I think I'm your kind of a typical Renaissance man kind of geek. I play music, I write, I'm a programmer, I play role-playing games. You know, and now I'm adding to that, I'm actually starting to teach at my kids' high school, and, you know, teaching and passing on a love for programming and other general geekiness. So, you know, beyond that, I don't normally like to talk about myself that much.
Well, if you'd like, you can tell something about Todd.
Okay. Go for it.
Well,
I'll just tell him to edit it out if it's too big.
no, I mean, you know, Todd. Let me talk about my friendship with Todd for a little bit. You know, when I first met, there was almost kind of an adversarial sort of relationship there, in terms of I was shy and like, you know, maybe vulnerable, a little thin-skinned, and he liked to eat those people for breakfast. So, you know, but you know, and he was very, you know, the bard with the gestures and wearing the SCA garb most of the time. But you know, we've grown, we've matured.
Got more clothes?
Oh yes, definitely. You'd be amazed at how much being faced with simulated death bonds two men together.
But no, he's let me tell you the one thing that I took with me. So I was in the Air Force for 6 years, and I'd signed up, and I was waiting for the delayed enlistment. He was the only friend of mine to come up to me beforehand and say, "Look, you don't want to do this. This is not for you. This, you know, you're making a huge mistake. You should stay here and continue to game with your buddies." And you know, 6 years later, I got to come home and say, "Looks like you're wrong." And he got to say, "Who were you again?" So
I did not. Well, okay, yeah. Well, you looked completely different because you know. Anyway, so
But no, one of my oldest friends. I'm really happy for his success and his continuing, his growing success. And I don't think the adversarial relationships there anymore. It's one of my oldest friends, and I'm really thankful for him convincing me that I should go to the Reno thing and maybe check out the science fiction convention. So
Very
Glad to
cool.
have him along on the journey.
Very cool. Yeah, when you were talking about him, I think before he was even here, and you were talking about Reno and how that just changed your life, changed your job, changed your outlook and everything. I was just so impressed with that. Anyhow, it was a pleasure. And from Worldcon 2012 in Chicago, Illinois, ChiCon 7, this has been the Weird Review. Thanks, guys,
Thank you very much.
thank you.